Hey everyone, this is Mike. Today the preliminary patch notes for 5.1 came out, and we're going to take a look at them together. Now this is a very big patch. There's going to be a lot of changes made to both the battle system, as well as a lot of crafting and gathering stuff, as well as a lot of new content. So it's going to take a while. Now if I don't forget, I'll also make some kind of like a timestamp, I guess you could say, in the description, where I go over like all of the different things, like for example, new playable content, new PvP, like battle changes, crafters changes, that kind of stuff. But we'll see if it's really necessary or not, depending on how these patch notes are structured. So let's get into it. First of all, as they say over here as well, the Epic of Alexander Ultimate is for 5.11, Blue Mage and Onsal Hakar, which is the new PvP mode, are for 5.15. Now it doesn't say where the Isgard restoration is going to take place. I believe it was for 5.11 as well. But if I did not miss it, it's not in these patch notes either, so I'm not entirely sure where that's all going to end up. First of all, new playable content. We have, of course, our main scenario quest. This is just the main story. Of course, this is all blurred out so that we do not get spoiled on anything. Word about Comera can now be found under the Chronicles of the New Era tab in the journal window. So this is if you want to like rewatch the thingies. Chronicles of the New Era quests have been added. This is for the 24-man. As you can see, we have our characters from Nier here for Yorha Dark Apocalypse, and then of course a bunch of spoiler-free thingies as well. New side story quests have been added. This again has been spoiler warned. Custom deliveries. This is for the pixies. So these will be the quests that you need in order to access them. Then of course the pixie beast stripes themselves. These are also quest syncs, so if you want to level up your other level 71 to level 80 characters, then you can do this just like it works with the side quests that they added in Shadowbringers. Of course, this also has a bunch of main quests as you level up your beast stripes. Daily quests, you can first complete the Manic Pixie Dream Realm quest, and then you can get your currency as well as spend them on the vendors. I'm expecting you can get 3 quests at a day, just like it is with all of the other beast tribes. Now, players can revisit previously completed quests cutscenes via New Game Plus. This is for people that, for example, like me, sped through some of the earlier portions of the game to catch up with friends. And now that they're at the endgame, they're like, oh, I actually do kind of like this story, I want to see what I missed. They can now play through Heavensward as well as Stormblood again, if I am not mistaken. Current chapters available are Heavensward Part 1 through 4, Stormblood Part 1 through 4, and then Shadowbringers Part 1 and 2. Main scenario for A Realm Reborn, class job and role quests, Chronicles of a New Era, and side story quests will be made available in the future update. Now, they also mentioned that they are trying to make the A Realm Reborn storyline a lot shorter, because it does, like, the A Realm Reborn story is the main problem for a lot of people when they start playing this game, because it's way too long, and there's a lot of like filler in there, I guess you could say. So they're trying to kind of shorten the A Realm Reborn story a little bit, and probably once they've done so, they'll add it to New Game Plus as well. And then of course this over here goes over how you can access New Game Plus and how you can pause it as well, because you don't of course have to play through it in one sitting. Difficulty of certain instance battles in main scenario quest has been reduced. Don't really see the need to do this, as all of these were pretty easy to begin with, but there have been some posts on Reddit complaining that they are too hard for some people, so I can see why they've done this. Players can now choose the difficulty of quest instance battles. This is where we're talking about the main scenario quest like instance thingies. So normally you played on normal difficulty, but right now you have easy and very easy as well. Basically they're going to do it through granting you the power of the Echo. If you don't know what the Echo is, basically all of the old Extreme Primals and old Savage Rage have this. Once they're not content anymore, they are giving the Echo, which basically makes you stronger, more HP, more damage, more healing, all of that stuff. So with easy and very easy, they're basically giving you a 50% Echo boost on the easy mode, and on very easy they're giving you a 100% boost. So for people that are having trouble clearing these solo instances, there you go, you are now a lot stronger in them. The Yagetsu combo action has been added to the actions available when playing as Hien in the instance battle for the main scenario quest. So you just get something extra. Don't know exactly what that quest was again, but you now have an extra action. Parameters of enemies that appear in Arcanist and Summoner quests has been adjusted. This is probably to make them a little bit easier, not entirely sure. Guild leaves, number of items required for crafter and fisher leaves has been adjusted. Not sure if this is going to be to get more items or that you require less. Most likely you're going to require less items in order to be able to craft the items necessary for these leaves. Fates, maximum of store of bicolor gemstone has been doubled. This is really good. Because one of the annoying things was when you're grinding fates to get all of those fates to level 60, is that you're just capping on gemstones all the time, and there's also some items that you want to buy which are like 350 gemstones, I believe. So it's really easy to cap on that 500 part. Could it make it a little bit annoying? So it's really good that they are increasing this cap by double pretty much. Adjustments have been made to the traders, new items available, and the shared fate rank required for certain items has been reduced. So we'll see what these are. Maybe the rank reduction also means that you can get access to some of the higher tier rewards, like the riding maps, for example, a little bit earlier. Treasure hunt rewards have been adjusted. This is basically the canals, or the, what else are they called, like Aquapolis and such, like the equivalent of 5.0. There's going to be more stuff in there because there is a new crafted piece of gear that you can get, which you'll most likely need one of the items from the dungeons of Liharia in order to craft them. Grand Company and Free Companies, of course, you have new workshop items, so you'll be able to craft this house if you have a good Free Company workshop. Following adjustments have been made to subaquatic voyages. This is basically new areas for your submarines, new items to get, and your submarine rank has been increased from 60 to 65. Number of items required for level 79 to 80 provisioning and supply mission has been increased as well. Number of items required for certain fisher provisions and supply mission has been reduced, so it should be a lot easier to get these. Housing, wards 19 through 21 have been added to all residential areas. Really good if you're somebody that wanted a house in this game, but housing is really popular on your server, for example, and you haven't been able to snag one. There's going to be 2 extra wards that will be available to you. I believe this also includes subdivisions, if I am not mistaken, for each subdivision, yeah. So there should be 2 more that you can get. Then private estates has been made available on certain worlds. Sprig and Twintania, these are the new worlds that were added to the European data center, if I'm not mistaken. They're getting the first 18 wards. They do not have wards 19 through 21 yet, so we'll have to wait for that a little bit longer. Then furnishings have been added from the design contest, a little wall, like, what is this? Not really a lamp, but like a waterfall, I guess you could say. And then some other stuff, also outdoor furnishings have been added as well. Players can now remain seated when interacting with furnishings. This is mainly for people that want to roleplay and stuff like that. New mannequins have been added, new orchestrions, new aquariums, new paintings, new flower pots, and seats for those as well. So we're gonna scroll through that a bit. New estate tags have been added. These are basically if you want to roleplay a bit as well, like you want visitors or you want to be a bakery of your house, stuff like that. Estate tags as well here, garden, aquarium, venue. This is mainly all roleplay stuff in my opinion. Then Gold Saucer, I talked about this briefly in the 5.1 preview video. We now have a new gate, the slice is right. I'm just going to scroll through this because it's probably a lot more fun to find out yourself when you're actually trying it out yourself. And they've also made some adjustments to already existing gates. Then Domen Mahjong. I know some people are really into this, I'm not really into it. If you're interested in this stuff, I'll link the patch notes in the description so you can take a look for yourself. And then of course Triple Triad, new cards and a new NPC to fight against has been added as well. Then Scenario Mode has been added to the Trust system. Using Scenario Mode you may challenge a new scenario dungeon with avatar NPCs that appear in the latest quest of main scenario. They did say that if you want to use your trusts in the new main scenario dungeon that is coming out in patch 5.1, which will of course be a level 80 dungeon, you'll just be able to click scenario most likely and then all of your characters will jump up to level 80. Whereas if you choose the normal avatars one, you'll actually have to level all your characters yourself. So this is probably made so that if you're somebody that did not level all of their trusts, you'll still be able to use them in the new main scenario dungeon in 5.1. Then following additions and adjustments have been made to performance actions, just a bunch of stuff for performance. Again, I am not super interested in this. If you want to learn more about this, the link is in the description. Let me see. Wondrous Tales has been adjusted as well. Prizes available have been changed. And Eden's Gate has been added to the Wondrous Tales as well. This is of course the normal rate, not the savage rate. Then Garo collaboration has ended, as such players will no longer be able to obtain the Garo inspired PvP gear, mount, title and achievements. So if you still want to get this, be very quick, because on Tuesday this is all going to disappear. And it's going to be replaced with some really cool gear in my opinion. Then battle system, the thing that I am most interested in, of course, some of the job changes. So let's go over them. First of all of the tanks, their 30% cooldowns have been increased from 10 seconds to 15. This is a really nice change, because on some of the fights, especially looking towards Ultimate Bahamut, there were some parts where I'm like, well, I can either need to time this incredibly well, or for some parts it was just impossible to catch all of the damage with your 10-second buff. Where, for example, Warrior's Vengeance used to be 15 back in the day, so you were used to catching all of it there. So yeah, it's pretty good changes. All 15 seconds now should make it a lot easier. Also a big buff towards dungeons, because in dungeons only a 10-second cooldown isn't that long, but 15 seconds is a bit more lenient. Now for Warrior, of course, Vengeance, 10 seconds to 15 seconds is their 30% debuff. Holmgang being increased from 6 seconds to 8. This is quite a big buff. Mainly because Holmgang was one of the, or I believe it's the only cooldown in which you couldn't catch triple tank busters. If I'm thinking, for example, on the weapons ultimate, or like Ultima Ultimate, on the Ifrit encounter, you could not Holmgang all 3 Ifrit flare breaths, whereas you could do it with like Hallowed Ground, Living Dead, that kind of stuff. And then when I'm looking at Titan Titan Savage, the triple tank buster, he does it at the start of the fight and at the end of the fight. You would need to use a cooldown for the first hit and then Holmgang the next 2 hits. Whereas with this change, you'll be able to Holmgang all 3 hits. So quite a nice buff to Holmgang for Warrior. Of course, maybe in the next ultimate there's going to be some kind of a triple tank buster again, or a double tank buster, where this duration is needed in order to catch both of them. But regardless, it is a really nice change to Holmgang. Then Raw Intuition also, you got an extra second. I think this is because both Sheltron as well as all of the other ones lost 6 seconds, whereas Warriors only lasted 5 seconds. So really nice change. Again, Shadow Wall, Nebula, 10 seconds to 15, just to bring them in line as well. Then Monk, some small changes. A really nice change in Rockbreaker. The fact that it is now just an AoE instead of a cone in front of you. Both, like the first 2 hits of the Monk AoE used to be just an AoE around you, whereas the final hit was only a cone in front of you. So it made positioning a little bit weird. So them just changing it to an AoE around you is really nice. Mantra effect has been halved. They thought Mantra was a bit too strong. I personally think there's other things to Monk that are a bit too strong. But they're basically just nerfing Mantra to 10% from 20. Then Anatman now triggers the cooldown of weapon skills upon execution and cannot be executed during weapon skill cooldown. Basically what this means is they're making it a GCD. So you can't use this while your GCD is rolling, and when you press it, your GCD starts rolling again as well. This might destroy the Anatman opener that Monk currently is using. I'm not entirely sure how this all works, but we'll have to wait and see when the patch drops to how this will actually affect the opener of Monk and all of that. Because during the normal rotation of Monk, Anatman wasn't really used at all. But yeah, interesting change. Kinda curious to see where this will end up. Then for Dragoon, these are buffs across the board. The Blood of the Dragon recast time has been reduced from 30 to 25 seconds, meaning that when you press Blood of the Dragon, you still get your 30 seconds, but you only have a 25-second recast time, meaning that it's literally impossible now to drop Blood of the Dragon, even if you're not even hitting a boss. So this will probably be for downtime and such. I'm not sure, of course, if you get stunned during a downtime, like for example the downtime during E1 Savage, that is I think longer than 30 seconds. So that might still affect it a little bit. But in general, like for example, if you're running in a dungeon or in the 24-man raid, you'll now be able to keep up your Blood of the Dragon 100% of the time, so that you can keep your stacks alive. So this should be really good for playability. In raids, this shouldn't really affect you too much, as if you have at least a little bit of uptime on the boss, you'll be able to keep Blood of the Dragon up regardless. But anyways, for dungeons and 24-man and such, I think this is a really good change. Gyroscoggle, Mirage Dive, and Star Diver are all getting some potency boosts, so Dragoon is going to hit even harder. Now, let's head over to Ninja, the one that I've been looking forward to the most. So, first of all, like, there's also going to be a video on this later, by the way, once 5.1 actually comes out. So, Mug, recast time being increased from 110 to 120 seconds, basically makes it so that it lines up with your trick attack. Trick attack has been changed as well. Potency has been increased. Vulnerability up effect no longer requires the execution from the enemy's rear. So this is really cool, because now you'll basically be able to trick attack from anywhere and you won't need to worry about positional. So the meme of being like, oh, the ninja missed his trick attack is gone, because you can apply it from wherever now. Now, to account for this, they also changed it in two ways. They're nerfing / buffing it at the same time. This overall comes down to a potency nerf though, which I think is a decent thing, because trick attack was really strong. So they're nerfing it from a 10% to a 5% damage buff, but they are increasing the duration by 5 seconds. Now the reason why this is good is because I believe trick attack was the only 10-second cooldown, or like the 10-second debuff on the boss, whereas stuff like Chain Stratagem, Battle Voice, Battle Litany, probably some other stuff I think is all around 15 seconds, some even 20 seconds, like I think Dragonside is 20, although I'm not entirely sure about that. But most of the buffs and debuffs that you have when it comes to raid buffs are all 15 seconds, so trick attack now being 15 is a really nice change. Then Aeolian Edge, combo potency and rear combo potency increased, so just a flat potency buff. Shadow Fang has been completely reworked. This is no longer a normal GCD, but it's a special one. So they increased the potency. It's no longer a combo action, but it's one of those special GCDs that has its own cooldown. Combo bonus, damage over time has been changed to an additional effect. Damage over time has been increased. Effect duration has been increased. Does not share a recast with other actions. As I said, it is now its own GCD. And it is on a 70-second recast time. Now, of course, this does scale with skill speed. So you'll be able to decrease this quite a bit. And I believe Hooton will also affect this cooldown. So it's not just skill speed, but it's also the haste effect that you get from Hooton. Basically, you'll always be able to use this underneath your trick attack, because trick attack is 60 seconds. The attack speed buffs that you have will bring this down to below 60 seconds. So you'll just always be able to use it inside your trick attack. And then of course Shadow Fang will not interrupt combos, just like all of the other ones. Now for Tenchi and Jin, not Tenchi Jin, but Tenchi and Jin, your different mudras. Duration has been increased from 5 to 6 seconds, basically means that you have a longer time to execute your mudras. Now also holds 2 charges, this is really cool. Triggers the cooldown of weapon skills, mudra and ninjutsu upon execution, basically meaning that they're making it a GCD. Execution of weapon skills will trigger this cooldown, of course, again, with the fact that this is now a GCD. Recast time has been increased from 0.5 seconds to 20 seconds, and the mudra status effect will no longer be renewed by consecutive inputs of a mudra action. Now, the thing that they're changing here, so the recast time means that before, your mudras were tied together to ninjutsu, whereas right now your ninjutsu is going to be 0.5 seconds instead of the 20 seconds, and the mudras are going to be the thing that is your cooldown for your ninjutsu, basically. This thing down here, the mudra status effect, will no longer be removed by consecutive inputs. If I go into the game real quick, if you look at my hotbar, my buff bar, whenever I input a mudra, now it ticks down to 1, I put in a second one, it refreshes the cooldown of this every time that I use a new mudra action. So basically what they're doing here is they're saying that whenever you use a new mudra, this will not refresh the status effect. So basically you do need to use these 6 seconds now to input all of your ninjutsu. So this basically already used to be the case, but now they're just making it so that you can't hold on to your mudra for a longer time. Then ninjutsu recast timer no longer triggered when ninjutsu is executed, meaning that it doesn't go on the 20-second cooldown because it's now a 1.5-second cooldown. And this will also trigger the cooldown of weapon skills, mudra, and ninjutsu upon execution. Basically, this kind of works like Dancer. If I am going to my Dancer, I'm gonna see if I don't hit the dummy. But basically, the way ninjutsus will kind of work now is you press 1 ninjutsu, 2 ninjutsu, or well, 2 mudra, and then you press ninjutsu, and when you press the ninjutsu, all of your skills go on cooldown. So it's going to feel a little bit more like a dancer doing its dances without the need of initially pressing your dance button. So with Dancer, you press dance, you press your dancing step, you press dance again. With Ninja, you're just going to press your ninjutsus, press your mudras, and then press your dance button. So that's basically what they are changing there with the way that ninjutsus and tenshijins, your mudras, are going to work. Of course, since these are now GCDs instead of GCDs, they needed to improve its potencies because otherwise it's going to be quite a DPS loss. So here you can see there is potency buffs all over the place for all of your different ninjutsus. Then Kasatsu no longer resets ninjutsu recast timer because ninjutsu does not have a real recast timer anymore, and it also doesn't have charges anymore. So if I look at Kasatsu right now, you can see that it has 2 charges. It's basically going to be only 1 charge that you're going to be working with. And also allows the execution of a single ninjutsu without consumption of mudra charges has been added. Recast time set at 15 seconds. Don't really know why that's there, but doesn't really matter because it doesn't have any charges anyways. Oh! Wait! Recast time is 15 seconds. Kasatsu right now. Oh, it's a charge time. Does this mean that you're gonna have Kasatsu every 15 seconds? Because if you have Kasatsu every 15 seconds, you're going to be dishing out ninjutsus like crazy as a ninja now. This could be a really cool change. But basically, the execution of a ninjutsu without consumption of mudra charges basically means that because your ninjutsus now are on 2 charges, using Kasatsu would overflow your ninjutsu or your mudra charges. This basically makes it so that it does not do that. This recast time set at 15 seconds, I highly doubt this is the case since these are preliminary patch notes, so there could be some changes in here. But if this is the case, Ninja is gonna be a ninjutsu machine. So this could be a really cool thing. Then Armor Crush potency boosted, Dream Within a Dream, the duration has been increased from 10 to 15 seconds. What they mean with this is the additional effect, most likely, because it grants Assassinate Ready, which lasts 10 seconds. This allows you to use Assassinate, so I believe that with this they mean that the duration from the Assassinate Ready buff is going to be increased by 5 seconds, basically giving you a longer time in which you can use your Assassinate. Then Hellfrog and Bavakakra are getting some big potency nerfs. This is because of the change to the Ninki gauge cost. So you're going to be generating less Ninki overall, but right now all of your Ninki abilities will be available at 50 Ninki instead of at 80. So that's why the potencies are also basically cut in half almost for both of these. Now with Hellfrog also additionally, the damage does not get reduced after the first enemy anymore. So right now, the first enemy you hit deals full damage, and then after that you have damage drop off. Right now you don't have that anymore, so that kind of makes up for the potency loss as well. That it is that severe compared to Bavakakra, which is not half the potency gone from that. But yeah, basically both of these were nerfed, but that's because you can also use them more often now, I believe. Then Tenchi Jin, this one has a major revamp as well. These are not your mudras, this is the like the Ninja Ley Lines ability. The way it works now is when you execute it, all of your 3 mudras are transformed into ninjutsu actions, meaning that right now, the way Tenchi Jin works, let me just use it real quick. So you need to use a mudra action, well I can't use it because there's no target, mudra, ninjutsu, mudra, ninjutsu. But the way it's going to work after these changes is that whenever you press your mudra, it will also automatically execute a ninjutsu. So basically, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're now just going to go 1, 2, 3, and you're done with your Tenchi Jin. So this should make it a lot more usable as well when it comes to fights where you have a lot of movement, where sometimes you just press Tenchi Jin and you're like, ah shit, I need to move, so you cancel your Tenchi Jin, which felt really bad. But right now you're basically going to be able to just go like 1, 2, 3 and your Tenchi Jin is done, which should see a very great usability in the skill, so it's really cool. Then Meisui increases the Ninki gauge, has been changed from 40 to 50, so you're basically going to get more Ninki out of using this. Recast time has been doubled though, so instead of being able to use it once a minute, you can only use it once every 2 minutes. I don't think they changed anything to Tenchi Jin, that is still 100 seconds I believe, because it doesn't really say that they changed anything here. Then the Gokka Mekyaku, this is the AoE skill that you get while under the effect of Kasatsu, just potency buff again as well, and same with Hyosho Ryanryu, which is the single target skill while under the effect of Kasatsu. Then Bunshin, this is the thing that summons your shadow clone. It now functions very differently. Instead of just lasting for a few seconds, it now grants you 5 stacks of Bunshin, and each stack will allow your shadow to attack basically when you use a weapon skill. Duration has been increased to 13 seconds as well, meaning that you can use your ninjutsus, your Tenchi Jin, all of your other good stuff in between, without basically having to worry about missing your Bunshin attacks basically. Because before, the annoying thing was that you would press your Bunshin, and then if you used a ninjutsu or your mudras to clip into your GCD, or you'd use Tenchi Jin to again halt your GCDs, you would basically lose attacks. Whereas right now, you're basically going to get 5 stacks of Bunshin, and then each stack is used when you use a GCD, and it lasts for 30 seconds. Meaning that you basically shouldn't be losing any damage from this skill anymore when you do use your ninjutsus or your Tenchi Jin. So that's a really nice change. Also, as with all the other Ninki skills, cost has been reduced to 50. Recast time has also been reduced to 90 seconds. This basically means that you'll have it up every other trick attack, or well, every third trick attack, I guess you could say. Basically, it makes it lines up with your 3-minute cooldowns. And this will also mean that if you play together with a monk, you'll always have it up for under the Brotherhood buff as well. I'm not sure if there's any other 90-second buffs. I don't think there is. And then again, Bunshin status icon will display the number of attacks remaining for your shadow. Also, the shadow itself will generate Ninki for you, but it has been changed from 4 Ninki to 5, basically. So that is that. Sukiho and Sukiho 2, these are your traits to generate Ninki, basically. So you used to, well, it has been reduced from 6 to 5, and then at level, I believe it's like 78 or something like that. Let me check real quick. Yeah, 78. Right now you gain 8 per ninjutsu. Right now it's 10, but it's also been changed from any weapon skill to Shadow Fang, Aeolian Edge, and Armor Crush. So only when landing these 3 will you generate 10, everything else will generate 5 Ninki. So you generate overall less Ninki than you did before, but on the other hand, for example, your Meisui will generate more and stuff like that as well. So overall, Ninki changes seem pretty good to me, as well as the fact that now you can basically use your stuff like Mug and Meisui without having to overcap on your gauge, because once you do reach that 50 gauge, you'll be able to spend it before using something like Meisui or Mug a lot easier, whereas before it was 80 gauge, so you'd either have to overcap or wait a while before using that off GCD. So overall, ninja changes, they're looking really cool to me. If this Kasatsu change is real, if this really is a 50-second cooldown, I'm going to be really surprised, but it's going to feel really cool, I think. But we'll have to wait and see in a few days when the patch actually drops. As I said, on Ninja you can definitely expect a video where I go over all of the changes in the game itself and such like that. I'll also probably be using it in the 24-man as well as the trial and such, if there is a spot for me to play Ninja, because I'm really excited for the Ninja changes if you haven't noticed yet. Then Samurai, also some very big changes to Samurai and the way their Shoha works more specifically. So Meditate, maximum number of stacks gained has been reduced from 5 to 3. Meditation status effect no longer has a duration, so you can basically stack your Meditate stacks for as long as you want. and triggers the cooldown of weapon skills upon execution. Basically, meditate becomes a GCD. Hagakure increases Kenki gauge from 5 to 10. Hagakure is the one that you use during dungeons mostly. Basically, like whenever you had too many sends up, you would use this to dump them, get some Kenki gauge back from them, so that you can start the next dungeon pull or next dungeon boss fight or something with the right amount of send that you want. Of course, in some fights, like for example, I guess Titania and Titan or stuff like that, or maybe even Leviathan, you could use this as well to reset your sends after downtime, stuff like that, and they're basically making it so that you get double the amount of Kenki back from them. Then Tsubame Gaishi, cooldown when executing is now affected by skill speed. So basically, I believe, let me think. Global cooldown when executing is attacks. Okay, so probably, let me go over to Samurai real quick. Actually, I need to go and hit a dummy for this. I'm kind of interested now. So with this, all of my cooldowns are 2.8. And then Tsubame Gaishi, this... Yeah, that's a lot longer than 2.8, I believe. Yeah, it is. So basically, this had a 2.5 second recast time, I guess you could say. Even though it doesn't say on there. Does it say in my actions? It doesn't say there either. But basically, it used to have a 2.5 recast time. Now it is affected by skill speed as well as then the your attack speed buff. Kasha? I believe it's called. No, Shifu. So it is affected by your skill speed as well as the attack speed buff. So that it won't feel like hitting Tsubame Gaishi is like all of a sudden I'm going slow for 1 GCD. Shoha now fixed 400 potency and requires 3 stacks of meditation in order for you to use it. Recast time has been increased from 1 to 15 seconds. This should not affect the skill at all because I don't really think you can get like 3 stacks again under 15 seconds. Maybe, unless you meditate somewhere in between or something. But basically, the way you get those 3 meditation stacks is by using your EI Jutsus as well as your Tsubame Gaishi. So Hikanbana, Tenkagoken, Midara Setsugeka, and then their their Tsubame Gaishis like counterparts all generate 1 stack of meditation. And then of course you can also meditate to get your stacks of meditation. Then Jinpushu, Fufuga, Yukikaze, and have all had some potency changes. It does say combo potency increased from 340 to 320, but I believe this is decreased. Of course, like this is a nerf, but it says increase, so either they switched the numbers around or they meant to say decrease in potency. I can see that this would be a decrease in potency because we now have access to Shoha a lot more often. If you don't know what Shoha is, it's this thing, which would basically deal damage depending on how many meditation stacks you have. Now it's going to be 400 potency regardless, but you do need your 3 meditation stacks. But before, you would actually need to be able to meditate during the fight, or of course fish for meditation, which was really annoying. But basically this will make it so that you will have access to your Shoha a lot more often. Basically means that you have a 400 potency of GCD a lot more often than you used to, so that's why they are nerfing these actions a little bit. At least that's why I think they are doing it like this. Fuga, they basically made it a bigger radius. I can see why they would do that. Yukikaze, again, combo potency reduced. And then Meiko Shisui status icon will now display the number of weapon skills that you have left. Of course, Meiko Shisui is this thing, which when you use it, you can use whatever GCD you want without needing to use the requirement for it. But right now it doesn't show like how many GCDs you have left. With the new change, they'll show how many charges you have left before it is over. So those are pretty cool samurai changes. They're nerfing its normal damage, but they're increasing its damage through Shoha. I think it's pretty cool change. Pretty cool playstyle change as well. Then Bard. This is a weird one. Because Bard's damage is being nerfed, but they're also buffing its raid damage. So right now, the songs of Bard, well, they used to give a 2% crit buff back in Stormblood. Right now they don't do anything for the party, but now each different song will have a special effect. So when you're in Mage's Ballad, you'll be granting the entire party a 1% damage increase. Now, it says to all party members, but we're not sure if this will also affect yourself. Because back in Stormblood, all of the buffs that the songs would give would only be for the party and not for the bard itself. So it's really interested to see if this will actually affect the bard itself as well, or if it's really only for the party. Then Army's Paeon will increase direct hit rate by 3%, and Wondrous Minuet will increase critical hit rate by 2%. So this basically means that all of your buffs, all of your songs are now going to buff the party again as well. Just pure damage buffs, either pure damage, direct hit rate, or crit rate up. So yeah, pretty nice changes, just a little bit more raid DPS for the bard. But then they also changed some of its own numbers as well. So Signedwinder potency has been increased. Basically, if you have more dots up, it does more damage. They increased the potency for both of them. Now, a really interesting change, Troubadour has been changed from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. This also is applied to the other two ranged as well. So basically, you'll have your raid utility up a lot more earlier. I think this is really good, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Feint is 2 minutes. Something like Addle is 90 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. So the fact that this was 3 minutes felt like a really long cooldown, so this being 2 minutes is a really nice change, because I believe the tank mitigation is 90 seconds as well. You can check that real quick. Yeah, tank mitigation is 90 seconds as well. So this basically makes it so that it falls more in line with all of the other jobs. You have access to it like probably once, maybe even twice more in a fight, because you'll be able to use it more now, so it's really good. Apex Arrow range has been increased. This doesn't really affect it too much. Potency has been reduced from 500 to 120, but potency increases up to 600 as your soul gauge exceeds the minimum cost. Basically, you still want to use it at max value, if I'm not mistaken. But right now it basically starts at 120 potency, and then as it reaches max, it is 600 potency. So I believe this is a buff. Let me quickly go to Bard. Yes, indeed. So right now the maximum potency is 500. So they're going to change the maximum potency to 600, so that is a nice buff there as well, but you'll only be able to use this like once every 90 seconds or so, depending on how lucky you get with your procs. So it's not a huge buff. Now, here are some nerfs though for the rest of Bard. So Wind Bite and Venomous Bite, these are your basic dots. Caustic Bite and Storm Bite, these are the dots that we use at level 80. Basically, the damage over time potency has been reduced by 10 for both of them. So it's actually a pretty big nerf. This is quite big. This is like almost a 20%, well, this is a 20% nerf. So yeah, pretty strong nerf there. And then here with Refulsion Arrow, potency has been reduced by 10 as well. This is not too much of a hit, but the damage over time effect nerf is quite large, because if I pull up my calculator real quick, right now, if you, for example, let's take Stormbite, 60 times, I believe it is, what is it, 10? Because it lasts for 30 seconds, and then of course every 3 seconds we have a raid buff, or a like a tech of a server tech, so that's when damage is applied. So that basically means, oh, I don't even read the calculator for this, but that means that this is a 600 potency damage effect, whereas right now it's going to be a 500 potency damage effect. Same here, from 500 potency down to 400 potency. So those are quite big nerfs. Then Machinist, this one is seeing nothing but buffs. So Tactician again recast from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. Split Shot increased potency, Slug Shot and Clean Shot also increased in potency, meaning that the heated variants of them are also going to be increased in potency. So Heat Blast is the thing that you use while you're underneath Hypercharge, 20 potency buff there, and then basically some potency buffs increased on all of their heated actions. Flamethrower, now when you execute this action, is now affected by skill speed. Will this affect its recast timer? Like, for example, now it's on a 60-second cooldown. Will that mean that it will have like a shorter overall cooldown? Or, for example, like with Samurai, will this mean that using your GCD again will be faster? I don't really think this will affect the skill at all, because right now the way you use Flamethrower is you use it for like 4 seconds or something, which is longer than the GCD cooldown regardless. So I don't really think this change is going to make any difference. Now for Dancer, everybody that's playing Dancer is going to be really happy with these changes, because they're basically seeing a potency increase on all of their skills. Now, Cascade, Fountain, Rising Windmill, and Blood Shower, if I am not mistaken, I'm gonna put this to the side real quick, are their normal GCDs. So Cascade, Fountain, and then I believe Rising Windmill and Blood Shower are probably... Wait, why does it say Rising Windmill? Ah, I see. This is kind of weird. So they're increasing Rising Windmill. Oh yeah, I see. It's for their single target. Because you still use these two in your single target rotation. So they're basically buffing your normal 1-2 skills, and they're also buffing the AoE skills that you proc. Because when you use, for example, Flourish, you get these procced as well, and these are stronger than your 1-2. So you want to use these regardless, even if you're in a single target fight. So that's why they are being buffed as well. Not buffing Fountain Fall and Cascade and the other one though. So yeah, just nice buffs to your 1-2 and then your 2 AoE skills that you use on single target as well when they are up. Curing Walls potency increase, don't really think this will affect it too much. And then of course Shield Samba also getting the 3 minutes to 2 minutes reduction. Black Mage doing the same thing as they did with Samurai's, what's it called again? Meiko Shisui. So basically triple cast will display the number of spells that is left that you can cast without a cast time. So basically when you use triple cast now, you just get a 15-second buff and you have no idea how many casts you have left. If you weren't counting, right now this will show a number underneath it, like for example 2 casts left of 1 cast left, or something like that. So that's a neat change, but not really a super necessary one. Then Summoner, also big changes to Summoner, but actually not that big at all. So Eggy Assault is now changed from a ability to a spell, meaning that it is going from an off GCD to a GCD. Bane doesn't spread Ruination anymore because Ruination is gone. Eggy Assault 2, again, ability to spell, meaning that it is now also a GCD. Pain Flare potency reduced, don't really see why they did this because you only use this on AoE anyways, and in most AoE situations you're not really thinking about high-end content anyways, this is mainly for dungeons and stuff. But yeah, small nerf to its AoE. Tri Disaster now deals unexpected damage with a potency of 300 and Ruination is gone. I believe Tri Disaster did not do damage. No, it would just inflict your 2 dots. So right now it is going to have a damage potency applied to it, probably to make up for the loss of the Ruination effect. Because right now if you use Tri Disaster, you apply your 2 dots as well as the Ruination effect, which then increases the damage that you deal with your Ruin spells. But right now the Ruination effect is just going to be gone altogether, so that's probably why they added this 300 potency of damage on the skill itself. Dreadworm Trance, reduced from 60 to 55 seconds. This would be probably to make up for the fact that you would sometimes lose 1 or 2 GCDs of like uptime on your dots because you use Tri Disaster to reset your dots. So this will basically make it so that you can use it earlier, and thus, because the way, like, actually I'm not going to show it, but basically the way the rotation worked is once you got back to your Dreadworm Trance, you would use it, immediately cancel out of it to immediately go into Summon Bahamut. Because you would only use this to reset Tri Disaster, but basically the fact that it's now 5 seconds shorter means that you can use your Tri Disaster like a second or 2 earlier, meaning that it doesn't drop your dots on the boss, and then you can maybe take like 1 or 2 GCDs under the Dreadworm Trance, allowing for more weaving or allowing for more movement before you then go into your Bahamut. Because right now the way Dreadworm Trance worked in the rotation was kind of shit. This should make it so that you at least use it a little bit. Other than this, Ruin 4 buffed by 40 potency, nice potency change. Bio and Miasma also got a 10 potency change as well. Miasma does apply an additional damage potency and then its damage over time. This has been buffed twice, so it's a really cool change so that it does more damage. Then Summon Bahamut. This was probably one of my biggest complaints about the job because it didn't function correctly. Meaning that when you now summon Bahamut, Wormwave can be executed immediately after being summoned. Before you had to do some weird triple weaving or clipping your GCD in order for Bahamut to do his worm waves correctly, but right now whenever you summon Bahamut he will immediately execute worm waves when you press your GCDs. So that's really good change. Now, it doesn't say this for your Phoenix, so I'm not sure if they changed it for Phoenix as well or not, because Phoenix had this problem as well. Fireburst trance as well, reduced by 5 seconds. This one I don't think was necessary, but I guess since this is now 5 seconds reduced, this should be the same as well, because otherwise it might just run out, coming to your Try Disaster and your dot uptime as well. Everlasting Flight, this is, I believe, the... what's it called again? The Phoenix Regen effect, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's the Phoenix HP Regen effect. So it's basically extended by 1 second. This is probably so that it fits together on the server ticks, because server ticks are 3 seconds. You can't divide 20 by 3, but you can divide 21 by 3. So that's probably why they did that. Gust Emerald Carbuncle changed basically the way, because I'm gonna skip the carbuncles because you don't use the end game anyways. But basically what they're doing is the normal auto attack that your pet does is being reduced in damage, but they are buffing the potency of the two like pet skills, I guess you could say, by quite a bit. Now the reason why they're doing this is also because your Eggy Assault 1 and 2 are now GCDs. So because they're now GCDs, the effects that come from them need to be stronger as well than if they were off GCDs. So basically, the normal basic attacks of your pet that just happen automatically are nerfed, but the actions that your pets use when you press your Eggy Assaults will deal more damage. As well, for example, Titan Eggy, this is never used anyway, so I'm going to skip this completely. Ifrit, let me see. Wait, does Ifrit not have his normal attack? Huh. So Ifrit's potency has been increased for all 3 of its skills. Wait, am I stupid? Wait, because Crimson Cyclone is, I believe, Ifrit's ultimate attack. Oh no, the ultimate attack is Inferno. Is Crimson Cyclone its normal basic attack then? Yeah, it is. Pretty sure it is. Interesting. So, Ifrit is being buffed when it comes to its normal attacks, I think. No, this is its Eggy Assault attack. I guess they're not changing its normal potency, that's why it's not in here. Yeah, they're probably just nerfing Garuda because Garuda can have 100% uptime on her thing, whereas Ifrit can't. If the boss is moving, Ifrit needs to like run behind the boss and stuff like that. So that's probably why they're changing it, that it's a bigger potency. Or why they're nerfing the potency of Garuda. But basically small changes to the pets, when it comes down to, is that the Eggy Assault actions are now increased. Red Mage. This is a really cool change again as well. So acceleration, this is the thing that makes it so that your next Ver Thunder or Ver Arrow will proc Ver Fire or Ver Stone. But they're changing it slightly, so the duration has been reduced from 10 to 20 seconds. Which I think that's an increase in duration. So wait, let me see. Does it last 20 seconds right now? Yeah, it lost 10 seconds now, so I have a feeling they increased the duration from 10 to 20 seconds. So this is probably a typo in here. And then the recast has been increased from 35 to 55 seconds. Now, the reason why is because the effect will now apply to the next 3 Ver Thunder or Ver Flare spells. Yeah, Ver Flare is the finisher when you do your melee combo. Because you could use acceleration on your Ver Holy or your Ver Flare to proc regardless, because right now, so let me quickly show this on a dummy for people that don't know what I'm talking about. So right now I can of course use acceleration to boost one of, well, to basically make it so that if I use for example here I use for arrow, it procced for stone, so I can use acceleration to force that proc to happen. Now, the thing is, when you have your mana up like this, like for example right now, my black mana is lower, so if I use my 1-2-3 combo, that means that when I use my Ver Flare, I am automatically gonna proc my Ver Fire. But the opposite is also true, so if I go and get my mana again real quick, because the proc of Ver Holy and Ver Flare are basically 50% chance procs as well, it's just that you're guaranteed to proc when you are below, when you're using the lower mana cost one. So I'm just gonna really quickly get back up. So right now, I am technically supposed to... Oh fuck, I already have a fire proc. Well, I guess I'll just use it more. Whatever. I'm just gonna not use the second one. So right now I don't have any procs. So normally what I would do now is I would use the For Holy for my white mana and then get the For Stone proc. But what I can do is I can use my 1-2-3. I can use acceleration and then use For Flare, and I use For Holy because it's just too natural. But basically, if I were to use For Flare there, I would still get the proc, because as you can see, my acceleration did not get procced, or not get eaten by the For Holy. So I could basically force a proc there as well. I did fuck it up kind of there, because just habit of using the lower mana cost, I guess. But basically, that's how it'll work. So it applies to the next 3 for Thunder, for Flares, for Arrow, for Holy costs, meaning that for the duration of those 20 seconds, or for the next for Thunder, for Arrow, for Holy, for Flare spells that you use, you're constantly going to be proccing its effect. So acceleration is not only going to affect one skill anymore, it's going to affect the next 3 skills that you use. And that's why its effect is also going to be, like its recast is going to be almost doubled. This is really good for the opener especially, because right now in the opener, it would change quite drastically, I guess you could say, depending on what procs you got. Right now you're just going to basically guarantee your procs during the opener. So really nice change. Then radius of Moulinet and Enhanced Moulinet has been changed. Just a nice buff, but it's mainly just to its usability. Contra 6, more damage. Jolt, more damage. Enhanced Reprise, more damage as well. I'm not entirely sure if this would make it a lot more worth using now. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. And then Enhanced Jolt now also increases the potency of Ver Thunder and Ver Arrow to 350, as well as the potency of Ver Fire and Ver Stone to 300. Currently, they are at 310 and 270. And now they're going to be 350 and 300. So it's basically some nice potency changes there. Once you get that Jolt too, because I think Enhanced Jolt level 62, if I am not mistaken. Yes, exactly, so it upgrades Jolt to Jolt 2, but it will also increase the potency of basically all of your other spells as well, so it's a nice DPS buff overall. Then White Mage, Asylum, range and radius has been increased, so this just makes the Asylum bubble bigger. Temperance will now be applied immediately when you execute it. This basically means that you don't have to wait like 1 or 2 seconds before your Wings effect is applied, because that's what I believe Temperance is. If I move away really quickly, and if it allows me to switch to White Mage, as you can see, yeah, Temperance. So basically right now when you press it, as you can see, I had to wait for the animation to go off for me to get the buff. Now with the change, it should just immediately apply the buff to me and my teammates. Meaning that the healing as well as the damage reduction will come out immediately. Then Scholar, Summon Seraph. Duration has been increased by 2 seconds, but your Seraph must now wait 2 seconds after being summoned to begin executing actions. Basically makes it so that it now has a summon time, kind of, but it lasts 2 seconds longer, so it kind of makes up for that. Embrace and Seraphic Veil. Action will no longer be executed when the pet is set to steady. The only reason why you would do this is if you were to unequip gear, to then equip gear again in combat. No, it sounds weird, but some people used it to like cheese LB, and it would not work when your pet was just healing people up. But this is just a very minor change that I don't think will affect many people. Constellation recast time has been reduced from 20 to 30 seconds. That seems to be an increase to me. Consolation is, I believe... Let me check real quick the actions. I believe it was one of these Seraph skills. Yeah, exactly. So basically, yeah, they're increasing it by 20 seconds. This is not going to change anything at all either, because it has 2 charges, and of course you can only have your Seraph out every 2 minutes, meaning that at the start of like every Seraph you're going to have 2 charges of this regardless. So this is not going to make any changes to the way Scholar works around its Seraph at all. This might be a small change, where you have to wait 2 seconds now, so maybe you need to like summon your Seraph at GCD early, something like that. But overall, I don't really think this will change too much about the way Scholar feels. Then Astrologian. Combust has been potency increased. Well, it's going to be potency increases all over the place, by the way. But yeah, let's look at the other ones real quick. So Essential Dignity, maximum cure potency has been increased by 100. Basically, Essential Dignity will be a stronger heal. Expected Benefic, when you're under the effect of Nocturnal Sect, the MP cost is going to be reduced. This is the shield that you can give, basically, your single target shield. Expected Helios, MP cost reduction as well. Combust 2, again, damage increase. Minor Arcana, now this is a really cool change. So the action automatically changes to Lord of Crowns or Lady of Crowns upon drawing a card prior to being executed. Now the reason why this is really cool is if I go to my Astrologian real quick. When I draw a card, I now can either play Spear, but if I don't need the Spear, I need to use Minor Arcana to change it in the Lord and then play it. Basically what this change will do is that when I draw a card and I press Minor Arcana, I will immediately play the Minor Arcana, I guess you could say. So it basically makes it so that I draw, and instead of me changing this card, if I press this, this will immediately play it instead of changing this to the next card. That's basically how that will work. So it basically makes it so that you don't need to press like 1 and then 2 of GCDs, but you just only have to press 1 of GCD to play a Minor Arcana. So basically less double weaving for Astro, which is really good, because of course when they're doing their Malefic Force, you basically have plays for 1 of GCD, whereas if you wanted to Minor Arcana something, you needed 2 of GCD spaces. So you'd either be clipping or you would be using it over the cost of 2 GCDs. So this being changed is really good. Then Collective Unconsciousness, very big change. Effect of this action has been revamped. Functions as follows. Creates a celestial ring around the caster. Well, this already did it. Diurnal effect. Reduces damage taken by 10%. Applies Wheel of Fortune to self and party members who enter. This is the damage reduction bonus. Oh no, that's the regen effect. Duration 18 seconds. Wheel of Fortune effect while in Diurnal gives a regen with a cure potency of 100, lasts 15 seconds, meaning that it is a 5... I can't do math right now. Well, it is times 5, right? Yeah, so 500 regen, 5 ticks, pretty good. Nocturnal set effect grants healing over time and applies Wheel of Fortune to self and party members who enter. Cure potency 100, duration 18 seconds. This feels weird because you can also execute it under Nocturnal here. Let me read this real quick. Wheel of Fortune under Nocturnal reduces damage taken by 10% for 20 seconds. Ends upon using another action or moving, including facing in a different direction. Cancels auto attack, blah blah blah. Bubble has been bigger and recast time is now 60 seconds, so it's been buffed here as well. So I guess when you're under the Diurnal effect, when you use the skill, you now get a regen. As you can see when I use my bubble. Collective Unconscious means that I take... Oh, it's instant now! Or did I move? Maybe I moved. And then the Wheel of Fortune is regenerate HP over time. So when you're in Diurnal, it basically means that you get the regen. When you're in Nocturnal, you'll be giving damage reduction for 20 seconds. So you can either use it to heal the party up, or for example when there's a lot of AoEs happening, like for example Titan is a very good example of this. For example when he like does these smashes on the arena, or in the final phase, it could be more useful to have the 10% damage reduction over time, rather than just have a small regen. So yeah, that's a really cool change. You can kind of like change, either be a healer or be a damage preventer, which when you play Nocturnal, you want to be the damage preventer anyways. So it's a pretty cool change. Curious to see how this will affect Astrologian play. And then of course Combust potency increased, Malefic potency increased. They're basically trying to make the damage that Astrologian does a bit better, because right now damage of Astrologian, both when it comes to like their overall contribution to the raid, is lower than both Scholar and White Mage, which is not that great. Of course personal DPS is normal that it's lower, but for raid-wide DPS it wasn't contributing enough to make up for its low personal DPS, so they're basically buffing its personal DPS a little bit. Then role actions. Reprisal can now be applied to all nearby enemies, and the duration has been increased from 6 to 10, meaning that you'll probably be able to catch 2 abilities more often with this, so this is really cool. The fact that it's now to all nearby enemies means that you can actually use it as a tank cooldown during dungeon pulls as well. Other than this doesn't have a huge impact, other than very niche moments, like for example in UCOP, during the ad phase, you can like basically reprisal both tank busters with one reprisal, instead of both of your tanks needing to use it. So it's a pretty cool change. I don't really think this will change too much things in Savage encounters and like high end game. This is really nice when it comes to dungeons, of course. For example, if we're doing Alexander Ultimate, and for example with Brute Justice he has like 4 ads up at the same time sometimes, if you're too slow on killing stuff. This could potentially be a pretty big change, but overall for the like fights that I can think of right now, this doesn't really affect it too much. But could be a really cool change, especially for dungeons. This is just really nice, because tanks right now have much less cooldowns to work with compared to before, so this is just nice to have an extra cooldown to work with in dungeons. So cool change. Healer role rescue changed to 2 minutes from 3. Not from 3 minutes, but like 2.5. So I guess you can just rescue people more often, either to troll or to actually be contributing, because rescue can actually be a pretty nice action if you use it for like knockbacks and stuff like that. So yeah, small change there. Following trait has been added to Summoner. Enhanced Outburst increases the potency of Outburst to 90. This is probably to offset the fact that Pain Flare is now a smaller potency, so they're basically making it that the non-spammable potency has been reduced a bit, but the spammable potency goes up, so it at least still does quite a decent amount of damage in a AoE. Following trait has been removed. Enhanced Tri-Disaster. This was the thing that would give Tri-Disaster Ruination. Since Ruination is gone now, this is gone as well. Help text for certain actions, traits and status effects have been adjusted. Their effects have not been changed, probably to make it more clear what all of the things do. Take a drink real quick. Then the display of resource cost with action icons has been adjusted as follows. Lily and Bloodlily cost will now no longer display on the actions bar. Minimum battery gauge will now be displayed, so it's kind of weird that they're taking this away and they're adding this. Although I guess it makes kind of sense, because Lily and Bloodlily you can kind of track on your gauge anyways. Then Red Mage, Black and White mana cost will be displayed on action icons. This is really good for people that are new to Red Mage, because they don't know the exact values of how much a black or white mana spell would increase your gauge by. So it's a really nice change. Cartridge cost will now be displayed on the action icons. This is a useless trait because everything just uses one cartridge. And then fourfold feather cost will no longer be displayed on actions either. This is also a good change because it just used one anyways. Then job gauges have been adjusted as follows. Sound will now play when Gunbreaker's powder gauge is full, so nice addition but not needed. Change in display of the Ninky gauge and sound effect when playing when you reach 80 Ninky has been changed to trigger when you reach 50. This is because now all of your Ninky skills cost 50 Ninky instead of 80. Sound will play when Bard's soul gauge reaches 100, yeah that's fine. Sound will play with battery gauges 100, that's fine as well. Sound will play when a dancer gains their fourfold feather. It's fine as well, I guess. but normally you should keep track of these things anyways. Change in display of the balance gauge and sound effect plate when reaching 30 white mana and black mana has been changed to trigger when you reach 80 white mana and black mana. Basically this means once you reach 30 you could use one of your enhanced skills, whereas you need 80 white and black mana to trigger the full combo. This is from Red Mage, by the way. And then a sound will now play when White Mage's Blood Lily blooms. That's a cool change as well. Then, very nice change for me, pet shit will now be displayed in party lists again. So if you place your fairy someplace and you forget to take her with you when she despawns, you'll now notice that the fairy is not in your party list anymore, so you know that you have to re-summon it. Summoner's Demi-Phoenix can no longer be targeted. I never knew you could target it in the first place. All attacks for Arcanist and Summoner pets are now categorized as magic attacks, that's fine as well. Bunch of changes to Blue Mage, which I do not care about, so again, if you want to check out the Blue Mage stuff, you can head down into the description where there is a link to these patch notes. New dungeon, the Grand Cosmos, has been added. This will be one of your main scenario dungeons, so that's why they are hiding the requirements, because it is indeed part of the main scenario. A minimum item level requirement has been added to the following dungeons. This is a much nicer thing than people probably think of at first. So the main problem was that people that were leveling, like for example, say you're level 70, but you still have item level 100 gear, for example, because you did your class quest and you're only leveling in Palace of the Dead or in Heaven on High, and now you reach level 70 as, let's say, a Dark Knight. You're level 70 as a Dark Knight, but you still have your level 60 artifact gear, meaning that you only have item level 100 gear or something like that. Or not 100, maybe it's 200 at that point, but basically you have low item level gear on a high item, like a high level character. And if you then go, for example, say you're level 71 at this point, you go into Hallminster Switch, the ads are gonna destroy you. Like, a healer will not be able to keep you alive when you are basically 300 item levels underneath the recommended item level. So this is a really good change. This basically makes it so that if you don't have the gear, you can't enter the dungeons. Should make it so that there is less frustration when, for example, you do have a tank that is just has no gear and just gets melted by ads, and the other way around as well. If you're playing with a healer that has no gear, they can't keep the tank or the party alive at all. So it basically makes it so that your dungeon experience should be a lot better now, because people will need gear in order to get into these leveling dungeons, which was one of the problems that I ran into a few times when I was leveling jobs. So this is a really cool change, like that a lot. New trial, the Minstrel's Ballad Hades Elegy has been added. Basically Hades Extreme will drop weapons and of course also the mount. Then following adjustments have been made to the trial Torn March Hard. When the Moogle squad Moogles are present on the field, the damage dealt to King Moogle cannot exceed a certain threshold. Maximum damage dealt by the Memento Moogle has been reduced. So the reason why they did this is because Moogle Mock Hard Mode is one of the trial roulette trials that you can get. The problem is that new people do not know what they're doing on this boss, so they just go after the big boss. But if you DPS the big boss too much, Memento Moogle will wipe the raid. This makes it probably so that you cannot DPS him to that point where he'll wipe the raid, and Memento Moogle is the AoE attack that would cause a wipe. The damage of that has been reduced, so it basically means that you should not wipe to this fight anymore in Party Finder, hopefully, or in Duty Finder, I guess you could say. So it's a good change. It's just really annoying when you're just playing with new people that don't know what they're doing, and basically just wipe the raid over and over again because they don't want to listen to you. Then, weekly restrictions on rewards in Eden's Gate have been removed. This is for normal mode, so Savage still has its weekly lockout, but Eden normal mode will not, so you can basically farm your 350 gear if you still need that. This does not apply to the Blade of Early Antiquity obtained in Eden's Gate Sepulture. This is the weekly token which you need, I believe, 7 of, if you want to get the weapon tombstone, basically, to get a, I believe it's a 460 weapon, but you can get this through E2 Savage as well. Then the number of Blade of Early Antiquity required in exchange for a lightweight tombstone has been reduced from 7 to 4. Okay, so now it's only 4 weeks instead of 7. if you want to get that 460 weapon. We have resolved an issue in high-end duties wherein the timing of hard and rage mechanics created discrepancies in total length of the encounter for any given attempt. This is incredible. The problem that we had in some of the fights, the more specifically E2 and E4, was that enraged timers were a bit different. As a result, the timing of mechanics in all Eden's Gate 7 encounters have been adjusted. We apologize for this inconvenience. We'll do our best to secure this does not occur again. So, if you don't know what this means, there are two types of enrages. We have a timed enrage and we have a mechanical enrage. E2 Savage is a timed enrage. So after, I believe it's like 10 minutes or something, you hit the enrage. But if you had a fast instance, this would mean that before hitting its enrage, the boss would basically be done with its mechanics already, and then start his enrage mechanic, which is basically he spams AoE rate-wide busters. Now, if you had a very fast instance, this would mean that you would sometimes see 4 of these raid-wide AoEs before enrage. If you had a slow instance, this would mean you would only see 1 or 2 raid-wide AoEs before enrage. So it basically meant that it felt really weird. Especially if you're progging through a fight and like you get a fast instance first, and you're like, oh, we have 4 of these big raid wides that we have to mitigate through before we reach enrage, and then on the next attempt, like when you go into a new instance, you only see 2. So it's really weird, and like teams would have to like layer their mitigation differently. Now, this kind of enrage is not necessarily as much of a problem as the next one, which is a mechanical enrage. A mechanical enrage means that a boss does all of his mechanics, and once he has reached the end phase of where he has done all his mechanics, he'll do his enrage. This is Titan Savage, for example. He has a mechanical enrage, and the difference in between having a fast and a short instance would sometimes be, I believe, like 10 or 15 seconds difference, which right now doesn't seem much, but when you did it on like week 1 and it was really difficult to meet the enrage, it would mean that if you got a fast instance, it would be almost impossible to meet the enrage, like DPS check, whereas if you had a very slow instance, it would mean that you had more time to get the DPS in basically and kill it that way. So there were a lot of people that were very annoyed at the fact that they were basically unable to get a week 1 clear because of this, or like once they hit enrage, they're like looking at their parser and being like, well, we wiped at 13 minutes 15, so we have a fast instance, so let's re-instance again to see if we get now the 13 minutes 30 second enrage, which is like 15 seconds longer. So they're basically making it so that this should not be an issue anymore, which I'm all for, because either you're going to see more raid fights before the fight ends, or the fight is gonna end faster. This was not as much of a problem anymore now, but for week 1 and week 2 clears and such, this is a very big problem. So it's really good that they addressed this. Then, Alliance Raid Dungeon, the copied factory has been added. So this is of course the Nier collab raid. Really excited about this one. Role requirements: parties matched via the duty binder, 1 tank, 2 healers, 5 DPS. It's pretty normal. You can receive 1 item per week for completing it, and on top of this you are also awarded, I believe it should be like some kind of a token. In the event you are awarded an item from the loot list, you relinquish your right to V for all remaining items regardless of whether you selected need or greed. Basically means you can only get 1 piece of gear. Each party in the alliance will receive its own treasure chest, containing of which will be identical regardless of the route taken. So this basically means every party has its own treasure chests. Completion reward: upon completing the copied factory, players can also earn a separate reward once per week: 2 cracked Stella clusters and 1 manufactured coin. The cracked Stella clusters, these are basically things you can trade in for materia, so that's really good. And the manufactured coin is something that you'll be able to use to enhance purchased equipment via elegant tombstones of Phantasmagoria, meaning that you can basically exchange it for a coat or a twine, I believe it's called. Basically it's just the items that you use to upgrade your gear, which you can get through doing Savage. But if you can't do Savage, or you don't have a team, or you don't want to do Savage, then you can still do the 24-man in order to get the manufactured coin to then upgrade your gear as well. Or for example, if you're doing it in Party Finder and you're having really bad luck with RNG and you're never getting these upgrade items, you'll now be able to get one a week. They should also allow this to be purchased with hunt marks, most likely. We'll see, maybe they say that over here as well. The item requires to enhance equipment purchased with Phantasmagoria tomestones can be purchased from Zill in the Crystarium with sacks of nuts. Oh, here we go. Or farther in Yulmore. So here it is, the manufactured coins in Yulmore, sacks of nuts in the Crystarium. This is what I was talking about, so you can now basically go hunting and then spend your hunt marks on the coating and the twine, which are the two items that you'll need to upgrade your gear. I'm quickly gonna move around before the game kicks me out. Although I don't think I need to go back into the game anytime soon. Of course, upgrading equipment can be done in Yulmore. Players will now receive the power of the Echo in the event all party members are incapacitated during the following trials. Dancing Plague, Crown of the Immaculate and the Dying Grasp. These are your three main story trials. So when everybody dies, it will be increased by 10% every wipe up to a maximum of 50%. Dancing Plague Extreme, Crown of the Immaculate Extreme. Each time players restart the aforementioned trials, their maximum HP will be increased by 5% up to a maximum of 25. And then in the Orobone Monastery as well, which is, I believe, the final 24-man of Stormblood. Then players can now use the undersized party options to participate in the Great Hunt and the Great Hunt Extreme. This is the Monster Hunter World crossover fight of Rathalos. So you can now basically go and try to solo it, which I think should be possible because it doesn't require a healer. So yeah, have fun trying to solo it. Players can now interrupt malice when caused by mimics and quivering covers in deep dungeons. This is a really cool change for people that are trying to solo deep dungeons, or just in general. Malice is the thing that gives you pox, I believe it's called, which makes it so that you can't heal and that you need a Pomander of Serenity? I'm not entirely sure which Pomander it was, but basically makes it so you can now stun that cast or interrupt it, which is a really good change because pox is a really annoying debuff to deal with, especially if you don't have a healer in the party, which if you're queuing with 3 random people, then this is highly likely that you don't have a healer. So cool change. Following adjustments have been made to the Lorand of Eureka. The Echo will take effect upon entering the Forbidden Land Eureka, increasing players' maximum HP, damage dealt, and healing potency. Effect will not take effect when undertaking the Baldesion Arsenal Expedition. This was the very big dungeon / raid layer, I guess you could say, in Eureka Hydatos. It's now easier to spawn notorious monsters, good change. Story quest completion is no longer required to ride mounts, really good change. So basically, everybody that is trying to catch up with Eureka will now have a much easier time because they have access to their mounts, and the notorious monsters will be easier to spawn as well as the fact that you're a lot stronger now. So yeah, if you're still somebody that needs to do Eureka, it should be a lot easier now. Requirements for spawning certain elite marks has been adjusted. This is for S ranks, I believe. Resistance of certain monsters has been adjusted. Exploratory missions have been removed. Following adjustments have been made in accordance with the above. This is all for Eureka, I am pretty sure. Timer windows, missions will appear in the Party Finder menu. Oh yeah, that's because you could make Party Finder entries for Eureka stuff. Achievements related to exploratory missions will no longer be obtainable. Okay. Actually, that's not for Eureka. I believe this is for Diadem. This might be for Diadem. Probably for Diadem. Following additions and adjustments have been made to the Raid Finder. Hades has been added. Dancing Plague and Crown of the Immaculate have been moved to the Duty Finder. And the Unending Coil of Bahamut and the Weapons Refrain Ultimate have been added to a new Ultimate Raid category. So there's basically going to be a third section. So right now you have regular duties, which you have like your primals and your raids. And then on high-end duty you have your Savage encounters, as well as your 2 Ultimate encounters. They're basically gonna have, and then of course your high-end trials. So high-end trials will only show Hades, raids will only show the Eden Savage. And then you'll have a third category, which is going to show the ultimate encounter, so it should be good. Duty Relic Expert has been changed, so basically we now have the Grand Cosmos, which is the new dungeon that is going to be part of Expert Roulette as well. And because of that, you also need to have item level 430 now before you can do Expert Roulette. This shouldn't be a problem, because Ronken gear, which is like the spammable tombstone one, is already 440 gear, and you can get 450 crafted gear, so it should be a lot easier to get that minimum item level required to go and do Expert. Then duties added to Mentor Roulette, Grand Cosmos, Copied Factory, pretty normal stuff that it's there now as well. You also need 10 higher item level to do Mentor Roulette. Then Minster's Ballad, Hades Elegy has been added to a list of challenges in Stone Sky Sea, basically addition to Stone Sky Sea to test if you have enough damage to clear it. Enmity generated by actions, Choco Drop and Choco Strike has been increased, basically if you want to make your Chocobo a tank when you're doing fates and stuff. He's going to be able to tank a lot easier. Then a bunch of PvP adjustments. As I said before, the new PvP mode will come 2 weeks after the 5.1 release. Of course, I am not really into PvP, so if you want to check all of these things out, feel free to go read them, because I'm not really going to go over all of these changes, because I don't PvP, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Then new items have been added. These are most likely the new set for the dungeon. And then all of the items added in 5.1 will be listed later, but this is probably the dungeon gear. Looks kind of cool, I guess you could say, if you're like into the wolf skins, I guess you could say. Gear based on the grand prize winner of the gear design contest, Male DPS edition, has been implemented together with gear for other role based on this design. This is the new PvP gear, if I'm not mistaken, so this will be replacing the Garo gear. Because Garo gear is going away, and this should be the new PvP gear. Looks pretty cool. New recipes have been added, new coat, and probably like the rest of the outfit as well. As I said before, with the new addition to the Dungeon of Lilahia or something, you'll probably need to do that in order to get some of the materials required to craft this. Then the following item names have been changed. Just change the name of some items. Some items may now be sold, desynthesized, submitted as expert deliveries, and converted into materia, meaning that you're probably going to be able to trade in either normal gear as well as the Titania and Innocence gear as like expert deliveries and such like that for your grand company. So you can clean up some of your retainers if you still have that gear. Now for crafters. Crafters also are going through a pretty big change, so this will take a while to go over as well. First of all, new crafter actions have been added. Final Appraisal. The next action that would complete item synthesis will instead leave 1 point of progress remaining, effective for 5 steps. Means that you can now basically do as many progression steps as you want, but it will always leave 1 point remaining, meaning that if you're not sure if the next, how should I say, like the next synthesis step would leave you with a little bit of space or not, you can basically use this, then use that last synthesis and then be like, okay, the next synthesis step I use will complete it for sure. So you're left with this. It's really good for newer players that don't have everything optimized and stuff like that. Waste Not 2 reduces loss of durability by 50% for the next 8 steps. I believe this only used to be 4? Not entirely sure, but it's basically probably a buff, since it is... Wait, Waste Not 2 is already in the game though. I am pretty sure. They're probably making it so that these are general actions now, which could be a really cool thing, so you don't need to cross clauses anymore. Level 55, Careful Observation. Do nothing for 1 step, preserving the status of any actions presently in effect. Crafter's Delineation is used upon execution, can only used 3 times per synthesis. I have a feeling no one is going to use this because it uses crafted delineations and nobody uses these anymore. Reflect increases inner quiet stack up to 3, or by 3 up to 11. Can only be used when initial preparations is active. This used to be, I believe, a specialist only skill. Yeah, this is a specialist skill, and initial preparations as well, I believe. Actually, no, it's not. So maybe this means that if this becomes available for everyone, You can use it on all of your crafts. Wait, let me see. I don't think I'm specialist in this. Am I? No, I'm not. I do have access to this. I don't have access to this, even though it's my hotbar. So yeah, it'll basically make it so that you can use Reflect on all of your classes now, regardless or if you're a specialist or not. So that's pretty good. Following crafter actions have been adjusted. Rapid Synthesis acquired earlier. Hasty Touch acquired earlier. Tricks of the Trades acquired earlier. This is basically if you... These are your cross-class actions, mostly. Ingenuity. Effect of this action has been revamped. Ingenuity now functions as follows. For the next 5 stacks, effectiveness of touch and synthesis action has been increased. I believe this is exactly the same as before. Oh yeah, it lowers the recipe level. Well, I guess it basically has about the same like effect as it did before. But still, pretty cool. Innovation now acquired at 26 instead of 50, so again, cross-class skill. Effect of this action has been revamped. Increases efficiency of synthesis and touch actions by 20% for the next 4 steps. This used to do control increase for the next for 50% by 3 steps. So the fact that it now just basically increases efficiency of synthesis and touches by 20% is a nice change, because now you'll also be able to use it on synthesis things instead of only on your touches. Muscle memory, increased progress by 300%. Additional effect, efficiency of your next synthesis action is increased by 100%. Active for 5 steps. That's a pretty cool change. Right now muscle memory does just 33% of your full bar, whereas right now it just basically does 300% of your craftsmanship. So pretty cool change. Great strides, increases the efficiency, has been changed from double to an additive increase of 100%. Okay. Name of the elements, number of active terms has been reduced from 5 to 3. Increase to efficiency is now kept at 200%. And CP cost has been increased. Name of the elements is this thing right here. You basically use this to quickly synthesize stuff. So you can only use it 3 times now instead of 5. So it's a small change there. Patient touch increases to inner quiet stacks when successful, has been increased from 1 to double the current stacks. I think that's a good change. Basic synthesis 100% rate. Basic touch 100%. Master's Mend CP cost reduced. Inner quiet bonus no longer shares the cap with innovation. Okay, interesting. Basic touch 100%. All of these actions are basically now 100%, and some of them have had an CP cost increase as well, or an efficiency increase here as well. Interesting. Increase to quality has been increased from 50% to 100% in an item's quality. So this is to get it to be excellent, I believe. So maybe with this you can now force an excellent proc? Question mark? Following crafter actions have been removed. Steady hand. They removed this because everything is basically 100% now. Master's Mend 2. It's basically the stronger Master's Mend that was changed here. Standard synthesis, advanced touch, hasty touch, initial preparations is gone as well. So I'm kind of interested to see how you're gonna proc this Reflect now, because you need initial preparations for this, unless this is like a buff that basically starts at the start of the thing. Rapid Synth 2 and 3, Trained Instinct, Satisfaction, Whistle While You Work. These were specialist skills that basically never got used. Nimius Wheel, Virgus Minigal, Trained Hands, never used these things. And then Specialty Reflect is gone because you get a new Reflect skill at 69 here anyways. Carpenter, Rumination, Heart of the Carpenter. No idea. Rumination wasn't really used much anyways. Ingenuity 2, okay. Piece by piece. This is a pretty big change because this was used by some people at least at some points. Manipulation, because probably everybody has Manipulation 2 anyways. So that's alright that that's gone. Flawless Synthesis. I believe that is that the Rough Rotation thing? I don't think people were using it anymore anyways. Let me see. Yeah, it's this thing. You needed, what is it? You got like a bunch of stacks when you used a certain thing, and then you could spend them on this, like for a lot of times. So it's kind of cool that that's gone as well. Oh, wait, let me click this away. Innovation is gone, Maker's Mark is gone, Heart of Goldsmith gone, Waste Not 2, because there's a new skill for that. Careful Synth 1 and 2 gone as well. Comfort Zone, that is a weird change. And then Reclaim is gone as well. Comfort Zone being gone is gonna make people have to rethink a lot of their things, because this is the thing that gives you like CP back. Interesting changes. Kind of curious to see what they're gonna do with this. Additional actions have been removed: Ingenuity, Rapid Synth, Waste Not, Tricks of the Trade, Hasty Touch, and Muscle Memory. Because you know, following actions can now be learned. Oh, what? In accordance with this change, the following actions can now be learned by all crafting classes. So I guess this means have been added or something, because these are now available for everyone. So that's a really good change. Following crafter action names have been adjusted. Manipulation 2 is now Manipulation. Careful Synth 3 is just Careful Synth. Alright, so that's because the 1 and 2s are gone here, so they're basically making it the normal skill. Crafter traits have been added. Basic Synthesis Mastery efficiency increased to 120. Rapid Synth Mastery increased to 500, but this is the risky one. Following crafter traits have been removed. Stroke of Genius, this is the 30% chance or something. Oh, somebody's messaging me. No, it's my friend talking about some of the crafter stuff. Traits, basically Stroke of Genius had a chance to increase CP by 15. Right now they're just getting rid of it because they're adding it later as a new trait or as a new thing. Overall experience point gained for crafter has been increased, so leveling crafter is easier. Following additions and adjustments have been made to the crafting log. This is like your in-game Garland tools kind of thing, I guess, so it kind of like breaks down what you need for everything. I'm still going to be using my FF Team crafting Garland tools for this most likely. Although this is really nice for if you don't have a second monitor or something like that. Pretty cool adjustment. Hovering your mouse over the crafting condition in the crafting window will now display an explanation of the status. Quick Synth has been adjusted as follows. Will no longer fail. Godsend. Provided you meet the recommended craftsmanship requirements. So basically, when you were quick synthing items, the success rate was dependent on how much craftsmanship you had. But right now, if you just have the recommended craftsmanship required, it won't fail ever. So that's really good. Increases to control will now provide reasonable improvements to the chance of receiving high quality items. Basically, the more control you have, the more chance you have at getting HQ items from rapid synthing or quick synthing. When using quick synthesis to craft more than one of an item, the time required per synthesis has been reduced. Basically will make quick synthing faster. So really good changes for quick synthesis. Soul of the Crafter now increases CP by 15. Basically this thing over here, Stroke of Genius, had a chance to give you 15 extra CP, but on specialists it was guaranteed. Basically they're making it so, okay, we're getting rid of the 15 CP from the trait, so we're just gonna give it on the Soul of the Crafter, which I believe you're a specialist? No, you're a specialist. So right now it gives 20 craftsmanship and 20 control. Now it will also give 15 extra CP for your specialists. Items used only for collectible exchange will always be crafted as collectibles. Oh, so great. The amount of times that I have crafted my first item and forgot to put on collectible synthesis is too damn high. So the fact that these now only are available as collectibles is a really good change. Following adjustments have been made to desynthesis. This is when you have an item and you just break it down into its normal components. Can no longer fail regardless of your desynth level. Great. So this makes it so that leveling desynth will be easier as well. Combined total level limit for desynthness has been removed, so you can basically level all of your desynths now instead of just one. If I go to my classes and jobs, DOH, as you can see, my desynthesis level is like 281 on this one, and then 207 on this one. But once I reached a cap, like you can basically only cap 3 of them at a time. Whereas right now with these changes, you'll be able to cap all of them if you wanted to. So this is really cool change. When you descent, descent level is higher than the item that you are descending, the number of items yield is increased, and there is a chance to procure rare items. This is kind of to make up for the fact that it won't ever fail. So this doesn't mean that if you descend one of those good items that you need for those special materials, you'll just get those rare materials. You'll basically still need to have the level requirement to get these rare items. Really cool. Leveling rate for descent has been increased, so it levels faster. Level cap has been increased to 460. Careful desynthesis parameter has been changed to desynthesis skill gain. New gathering actions have been added. Sneak. Tread quietly, enabling you to avoid enemies up to 4 levels above your own. Sneak does not hinder movement speed and can be used when riding mounts. This is a great change, because right now if you're a gatherer and you press, where the hell is my... Oh, I guess I can't use that here. But basically, if you use your stealth, you would move really slowly, which was always really annoying when you're gathering. Now you basically won't be having the reduced movement speed, and you can still ride mounts and such as well with it. Just a great change. Level 20, the 12's bounty increases elemental shard yield by 2, cannot be executed if the gathering node does not yield shards. This is probably going to replace these skills right here. That it basically makes it so... Is it a trait? Oh no, it's an action. It's still an action, but pretty good chance because now it's just 1 action instead of 6. Following gather actions have been adjusted. Lay of the Land 2 acquired at level 5 instead of 6. The Giving Land. Effect of this action has been revamped as follows. Increases elemental shard crystal cluster yield by a random amount. Effect can be stacked with the 12's bounty. Cannot be executed if there's no shards, clusters, or crystals. What does it do right now, the Giving Land? Let me check the actions. Or is that a new skill, maybe? Oh no, the Giving Land. Reduces the chance of obtaining HQ items to 0, but guarantees that shards, crystals, and clusters are obtained in addition to an item gathered from the node. Okay, so you're basically gathering crystals together with normal items. With that, now it's basically just gonna stack with the 12's bounty, so it's something else that you want to use if you're gathering for crystals and clusters and such. Botanist, these are basically the same changes. Fisher, also again, same changes with the Lay of the Land thing, but now it's True Devotions, the level 66-1. Following actions have been removed. Stealth, because you now have that sneak thing. Toil of the Mountaineer, Bjerregoth's Ward, I believe Toil of the Mountaineer. Yeah, this is something that would show all of your, what are they called? So if you went to a node, like a legendary node, you have like all of these hidden items. And if you use Toil of the Mountaineer, it would basically show all of the items so you'd know where you have to go and mine. So they're getting rid of that, and then of course all of the actions, all of these 6 here, towards your shards, because you now have a new action for all of them. New Gatherer traits have been added. Auto Sneak. Automatically activates Sneak upon changing your class. It's cool. I guess you just don't have to press the button anymore, and since it doesn't hinder movement anyways, nice change. Minor, level 60. Automatically activates Truth. These are traits, not actions, by the way. Automatically activates Truth of Mountains upon changing your class, which is this thing, so you don't have to press these anymore. Nice change as well. Impulsive Appraisal Mastery changes Impulsive Appraisal to Impulsive Appraisal 2. Unearthed Mastery, same with all of these. Really good. This basically, like you had a... Like, let me just go over the Impulsive Appraisal, for example. So you had your normal Impulsive Appraisal, which was a like 0.9%, whatever. Then you had Impulsive Appraisal 2, which was the same, but it had an additional effect, which basically would increase the effectiveness of all of these things. So you would never use the base version regardless, so it's good that they're just an upgrade now, instead of just being a like 2 different actions. Botanist pretty much got the same changes as Miner. Level 70 automatically activates Truth of Oceans when you go Fisher, so that's the same change as well. Following gathering traits were adjusted. Ward of 12 name has been changed and changed to extend the 12's bounty effect to crystals. Okay, to clusters. Enhanced GP regeneration. Effect changed to increase base GP regeneration by 1. Enhanced GP regeneration 2. Base regen goes up to 2 and increase to regen while gathering goes up by 1. So the way it works is you get 5 GP base, but the trait would make it so that you gain either like 6 GP base or 7 GP base, but when you're gathering you still only get 5. So with this change they're basically making it so that when you're gathering you now get 6 per gathering attempt instead of 5, and then the total is 7. So that's good. Same changes to Fisher. Traits have been removed, all the stealth ones, because now have sneak. And then Endless Toil of the Mountaineer and Toil of the Pioneer is gone as well, because I believe you don't need these anymore. But we'll see that in the next ones. So overall experience point has been increased, so leveling gatherers is going to be easier. Gathering rates for all gathering classes has been increased, so you should be able to gather stuff easily, more easily now as well. Special conditions set for certain gathering nodes and the items yielded by them has been adjusted. This is probably all for timed nodes and stuff like that. Quick gathering mode has been added. Quick gathering allows you to continuously gather from a specific slot or a gathering node until all gathering attempts have been exhausted. You can't use this for guild leaves, unspoiled nodes, ephemeral nodes, and legendary nodes or favors. So basically, if you're spam gathering something for like a set that you're making, you can just enable quick gathering. You click once and you let it do its thing. Just nice quality of life thing that you don't constantly have to be clicking on the thing. Following adjustments have been made to items not registered in your gathering log. When gathering an item for the first time, the gathering rate will no longer be lowered. Really good change, because it used to be like 25% chance to get it or something. Items not recorded in your gathering log will appear as unknown. Will no longer appear as unknown in the gathering window. An icon will be displayed next to the items that you have not yet recorded in your gathering log. So normally, instead of it just being filled with unknowns and you having to spend GP to increase the 25% chance to a 75% chance to get it, you now can see all of the items that you're gonna get, and the gathering rate is also unaffected. So it's a lot easier to get stuff that you've never gathered before, basically. And you can also see more clearly what it is all going to be as well. So that's a really good change. Required level to equip following items has been lowered from 11 to 10. Pretty useless stuff if you already have your stuff leveled. As for gathering nodes, these basically become available at level 5 instead of at level 6. This is a change all throughout, so they're all basically reduced by 1 level, which is a good change. Items at unspoiled or legendary nodes will no longer appear out of reach. This is good for 2 reasons. First of all, you don't need to remember which node all of the items are. Second reason, because you now basically get an extra gathering attempt, because you had to hit the item once to uncover it and then you could start gathering. Now you can just start gathering immediately. Item yield from ethereal reduction has been adjusted. Please tell me that it gives you more now, because that would be really good, because sometimes just getting Aether Sense and such was always a pain. If they give you more now, that would be really good. Search for items option has been added to the subcommand menu in the gathering window, so you can just search for stuff. New miner and botanist gathering points have been added. Probably going to be some new items that we can craft as well, so that's why there's new items that we can get. New items been added to gathering points. New fish been added as well. Players can now speak to Kai Shir to complete custom deliveries, so a new custom delivery guy that we can level up. By completing these custom deliveries, players can receive guild experience points, crafter scripts, or gatherers scripts. A total of 12 custom deliveries can be made each week. So basically it's still going to be 6 per NPC, and you just choose which of the which NPC gives you the most currency, basically. But of course you'll want to level this guy up first. Requirements, just a quest that you can do. Players can gain the ability to cast glamours on Kai Shir by raising his satisfaction level to the max. You need glamour unlocked, but if you're level 15 you have this. Glamour prisms are required as well. Items used to cast glamours will be bound to you, so you can't trade or sell them on the market anymore. Following additions have been made to the glamour dresser. Checkbox to only view items equipable by your current race or gender has been added to this for people that Fantasia quite a lot, I guess. Filter has been made for specific classes and jobs, so you can select like, oh, give me gear that I can equip on my ninja, for example, and it'll show all the gear that you can equip on your ninja. And then a checkbox to filter out gear set items has been added. This is really good, because sometimes I would put stuff in my glamour dresser that was on one of my gear sets, and then like I go into a dungeon and I'm like, oh shit, I don't have a chest piece or something. So this is really good that that's been added as well. New mounts, this is going to be from the Hades trial. This one maybe from PvP? Not sure. I'll have to wait and see for that. Following mount can now be used to fly without completing the I Believe I Can Fly quest, which are all your chocobos. Hades barding has been added. Chocobo barding companion window has been added, changed. New minions, no idea where to get these from. Item exchange to upgrade crafted items from 450 to 460. So if you're still running around with your crafted gear, you can now up it by 10 levels. It's going to be sold in Yulmore. Acquiring upgraded gear. Yeah, this is basically the upgrade stuff. System changes. Following adjustments and additions have been made to achievements. The icon for certain achievements has been adjusted. Certain duties and trials will now court towards the completion of the following achievements. This is basically all of the tank stuff that is going to be changing with some of the new additions of the new dungeon, Hades Extreme, and then the copied factory. Display of titles in the achievement window has been adjusted to more easily distinguish between those that appear before or after your character name. Some titles are in front of your name, some come after your name, so you can more easily distinguish those two now. The description for the Go Big or Go Home achievement has been adjusted to specify big fish in the source world. Up to 100 items can be added to your favorites list now on the market board, so that's nice if you have like certain items that you get a lot, like for example pots and food. If you're a raider, you can just favorite the pots and the food and you can come back to check quite regularly to see when they're the cheapest to buy, instead of having to go search for them every single time. Following adjustments have been made to gear exchange vendors. Filter to view gear specifically for classes and jobs has been added, and the display when receiving 2 or more items in an exchange has been adjusted as well. This is to trade stuff, like for example tombstone gear and such, I believe, or when you're upgrading stuff, it looks like. This is some old level 50 gear, I believe even, so we'll see what that all is. Then fellowships, a new means for like-minded players to join together, have been added. I read through this before, but basically this is some kind of like a very big cross-world link shell slash forum, I guess you could call it. And you can basically say what your fellowship wants to do under its activities, like Gpose, player events, Nova support. You can invite people to your fellowship. It's kind of like, I guess you could say, a cross-world free company, almost like that. You can also search for fellowships if you want to join some. Features of them, like you can post messages of the day, you can have notices, message board, members. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do. This is basically like an in-game forum almost kind of thing. Looks pretty interesting, but if you want to read through all of it, I'll leave a link, as I said, in the description below. Following adjustments have been made to become a mentor. This basically make it a little bit more difficult to become a mentor, but still way too easy. I still think that most of the people that run around with the mental status should not have it, but there's also, of course, a few good mentors around, of course. But basically, you still don't have to be a good player of the game in order to become a mentor. You just have to be, what is it like? Okay, instead of 300 player recommendations, have 1,500 now. Other than that, doesn't really change anything. So, still don't really think it's that great of a system, but it is still there for the people that want it. Then, following adjustments have been made to Gpose. If you're somebody that likes to use Gpose a lot, you have some new stuff to look forward to here as well. Duties that can be recorded have been changed. Still don't know anybody that actually uses the duty recorder, but you can now do the Dying Grasp and Eden's Gate Sepulchre Savage. Adjustments have been made to the duty finder. Now this is where the nice changes come in as well. Item level is displayed, so when you're trying to join a certain fight, or for example like one of the savage fights from the duty finder, you'll now know your item level, and you'll see that when you are too low of an item level to join certain fights as well, so that's pretty good. Layouts of the first dungeon trials and raids tab has been adjusted for easier navigation, so you can like easier click through stuff. That's good as well. Option to disable the effect of the echo has been added to Duty Finder settings. This is really nice for people that do minimum item level stuff, because when you queue into an old fight minimum item level, you still get the echo. So every time you wipe, you physically have to click off the echo, which sometimes people will forget it, and then people have the echo on, and then when they clear, they're like, oh no, somebody had echo or something like that. So if you silence the echo, you can now basically get rid of that, so you don't have to click it off every single time. Really cool change for those people. Layout of the Duty Finder settings menu has been changed as well, so it's a little bit more compact. Party leader will no longer change when entering a duty without role restrictions. This doesn't really change much. Following adjustments have been made to the Party Finder. Players can now blacklist other players actively recruiting party members, and recruitment listings for players on your blacklist will no longer display. So basically, if you blacklist somebody, you won't see their posts in the Party Finder anymore. Changes made to emotes. Sort function has been added to the emotes window. When adding a new emote to the favorites tab, a system message will display indicating your total number of favorite emotes. Setting to play a sound notification when other players emote at you has been added. Oh, that's kind of cool, because sometimes people will be emoting you and you won't even realize it, because you're not looking at your game tab or something like that. So I guess it could be kind of nice if you're into that. Collection menu has been added under the duty in the main menu. Not entirely sure what this is for. Following measures have been taken in anticipation of congestion during the release of patch 5.0. Players will no longer be automatically logged out due to inactivity, so I can basically be AFK as long as I want to be. Quite nice. Field instances for old and new areas will be removed. So basically right now in the Shadowbringers areas there are, like, I believe 3 instances for each area. They're basically going to get rid of all of the instances and just going to be one big area for all of them. If you're somebody that still needs to do its fates, it should be helping you out quite a bit, because everybody's going to be in one map now instead of on 3 different ones. For the people that really liked hunting, your triple marks are going to be gone, because right now every map basically has 2 A ranks, and they would spawn in all 3 different instances. So now you're only gonna get 2 A ranks instead of 6 for one map. Copy item name option has been added to the subcommand menu when selecting linked items in the log window. This is to copy items into your chat windows. Can be useful. With the text cursor in chat log window or any search field, pressing will paste to your clipboard. This is for controller people. To consolidate settings for individual chat channels, a channel log settings menu has been added. This is nice, because back in the day you need to go into your settings, like for example, was the system? No, it's for character, I believe. Oh wait, clicked the wrong one. So you would have to go to log window settings and then go down here and then select the right one that you wanted to change and such. Which could be kind of annoying if you wanted to change colors and such. Right now you just click on your link shell and then you can adjust the settings of, like, the notification sound, where you want it displayed, and the text color as well. So pretty cool change over there. Transparency setting has been added for cross hotbar. This is for controller players. Mount roulette can be used when swimming or submerged underwater. Settings to hide the HUD will be disabled when skipping cutscenes. Lock meshes displayed when obtaining allied seals. Interior seal 6 of nut has been adjusted. Not really sure what this all means. So basically when you get stuff, it's been adjusted a bit. Option displayed when confirming a friend request has been adjusted. Don't really know what that is necessary. Adjustments have been made to targeting. Character selection when using the directional buttons of a gamepad can now be changed to form a target circle to target select. This option can be found, this for controller players. When using a mouse with target filters on, players can now enable the selection to target near the mouse cursor. That is for the keyboard players. Following adjustments have been made to ground targeting when using a gamepad. So this is when you wanna place stuff, like for example your asylum, and you wanna place it on the ground like that. They made some changes to that as well. I don't really play with the controller, so I don't really know exactly what changes here. Class and job actions will now be set to the hotbar or cross hotbar automatically when logging in without saved hotbar or crossbar data. So if you have, like, a new character, I guess it will just, like, I don't know why you would never have saved data. Maybe if you, like, changed something or screwed something up, who knows. Players can now change their sound equalizer settings. So if you want more bass, more voice, more tremble, you can change that as well in the system configuration. Adjustments have been made to the keybind menu. Following commands have been added: collection, fellowships, party, fellowship finder, and new game plus. Basically shortcuts for some of the new pieces of content that you can now have access to. Additions and adjustments have been made to text commands. These are basically just text commands to find stuff. And these are also for Blue Mage. Auto translation stuff been added. PS4 autocomplete dictionary as well. New music. Overall sound output has been lowered. Okay. Game client is now compatible with Logitech LightSync PC gaming speakers. Oh, I have these, I believe. Okay, cool. New battle voices for player characters have been added. Following adjustments have been made to the staff credits. Okay, so just credit stuff changed. Confirmation prompt via the support desk. Error code. Client fails to back up. Players who cancel the queue on login screen must now wait 30 seconds before re-entering the queue. What this basically means is, before Shadowbringers, if you had a queue that was less than 100 people, wait, let me actually show that real quick, because they disabled this like since Shadowbringers launch basically. But when you would log in, you would get, no, I didn't get a queue. Usually I get a queue, but basically if you would have like a queue of 30 people or something, you could just cancel and log in again, and it would immediately like make you go to the front of the queue and log in immediately. Since Shadowbringers, they've basically made it so that you can't do that anymore, and if you try to do that, you basically now have to wait 30 seconds before re-entering the queue. Doesn't really change anything because it hasn't worked for the last few months anyways. The list of worlds on your character selection screen will now be listed in alphabetical order. Game launcher has been revamped. And that's it. The only thing missing in here is the Ishgard Restoration new piece of content. We have heard that it's coming in 5.11, which is 2 weeks after its release, together with the Epic of Alexander Ultimate, but they haven't put it in the patch notes here, so I'm thinking they're either gonna have that in the full patch notes later, or they'll have it in a separate patch notes specifically for patch 5.11 or something like that. So for Ishgard Restoration, we'll have to wait out and see when that's coming out. But for everything else, this is pretty much what the patch has to bring. As I said, for ninja changes and such, I'm gonna have a video of that probably when 5.1 comes out. Depends on how much time I have, because I'm gonna be doing the 24-man as well as the trials with my friends and such on that day. So we'll see how much time I have left to make videos as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the preliminary patch notes. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go check them out yourself for all of the stuff that I skimmed over that doesn't interest me as much. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.